the time when Kenneth got shot, he was leaving the party. And someone that he knew, he stopped and talked to him. But when he got finished speaking with that person, he turned to go to the car, and that's when the person opened fire on him. They shot him 7 times, I'm told. I don't know if he was conscious when they took him to the hospital or unconscious. I don't know if he was calling for me or his sisters or his brothers. I don't know if he was scared or if he was panicking. My baby actually died alone.
The month of October blankets the Pratcher family in grief. A man with a gun taking the life of Kelvin Pratcher in October 2016. 7 years later, just 5 months ago, gun violence again, taking his son Kenneth Pratcher's life too.
We just keep losing people. I don't know. It's just hard.
Weeds drying up for Detective Greg Day, on the case since the early morning of October 29th, when a Halloween party turned deadly.
I mean, you're at a place with several hundred people, all of them together there for hours, and somebody is shot and killed out in the open. We know people saw it. We know people might be aware of every little detail that happened.
But Day says those people aren't speaking up.
This was a targeted attack, and I absolutely think that it's a possibility that this person was there at this party the whole time. Based on the evidence we do have and where the investigation's gone so far, this wasn't random.
What that evidence is, we don't know. Police sharing nothing but this one crime scene photo and the location of the party.
In the Edison neighborhood down on Fulford Street.
A killer walking free right now. A mother watching her back.
Even at my son's funeral, I said, what if the person that did this to Bam is sitting up here? I wouldn't even know who it was. So that scares me a lot.
A sister who says she's paranoid.
They got him, so what if they try to come after his other loved ones?
And a little boy left without a dad.
His son is the connection that I have to him now.
Yet a shroud of secrecy, as Detective Day calls it, still lingers and still hinders this case.
The reason this case is where it is because nobody who can talk about it is talking about it. And for Kenneth's sake, for his mother's sake, whoever's, take your pick. But somebody who can stand up and do it, they're going to be the reason this case is solved.
In news, we're always doing things that are usually pretty cut and dry, black and white, but this is the one night when you couldn't explain what was going on.
News Channel 3, this is Missy. May I help you?
Phones at News Channel 3 ringing off the hook during the night of March 8th, 1994.
We probably had over 50 phone calls, and that's not usual. It just got a little bit dark out. We started receiving a couple of calls into the newsroom from people who were saying they were seeing just these bright lights in the sky and that they were moving, back and forth really quick.
You're watching WWMT, West Michigan's Channel 3.
We talked to, people who had called us.
I wasn't really a strong believer. I believe that there could have been something out there. But when I stepped out here on the patio Tuesday night, it made me a strong believer.
There were over about 300 witnesses that MUFON is aware of that saw various colored discs doing erratic maneuvers in the sky.
Bill Konkoleski is the president of Michigan MUFON. MUFON stands for Mutual UFO Network. It's the world's largest civilian UFO research organization.
Almost everything that comes into us, we can fairly reliably identify. The number can vary between 85 to 95%.
Konkoleski says Michigan alone tends to get just over 200 sightings a year.
We're in this to try to identify what's going on. The most interesting part about this is that 10% that we can identify. And we always stop at the water's edge and say, well, this is unidentified. Don't jump to conclusions. But boy, is this a head scratcher.
The 1994 sightings are one of the most famous MUFON has ever investigated.
This giant sighting where over 300 witnesses in a particular night, including weather return and police and whole shebang, it just makes you wonder how often events of this magnitude happen and nobody's hearing about them.
Is there any Air Force airplanes or helicopters flying around in Allegan or Ottawa County tonight?
There were probably 4 or 5 lights, and they were all flashing right in a row.
It was a kind of like a V, and there was 4 lights, and they were blinking back and forth.
Something we've never seen before.
Okay, we'll have somebody check it out.
March 8th, 1994. A clear and cold night seared into the memory of hundreds of Michiganders.
I think about it all the time when I go out after dark.
Lee Lambert's one of many to see unexplainable lights in the sky.
And I looked up and I saw this long row of red and white lights. And I go, that's not supposed to be up there.
A sports writer for a local newspaper, Lambert's is the last to leave a high school basketball game.
So I just watched it until it disappeared in the treetops over the Dutch Dome in Hagan High School.
About 20 miles north, Cindy Pravda sees something she can't explain out her kitchen window.
The more I looked at it, I'm seeing 4 lights. They're like the size of the full moon.
Pravda recounts her Grand Haven sighting in this 2019 interview.
It wasn't helicopters. It was nothing else that I could explain.
The next day, an investigative reporter with the Muskegon Chronicle breaks the story.
When I got the recording and I first heard it, I knew this was major stuff.
Mike Walsh getting his hands on the 911 recordings.
I got in my car and I popped it in the tape player, and it knocked my socks off. One of the first callers, Holly Graves was her name.
And it's just like a circle of a lot of different lights flickering.
You hear the kids in the background very excited about, look at this, look at that.
I don't know, it's strange.
You could tell it in their voice. They had seen something.
Following numerous reports, the quick-thinking dispatcher calls a radar operator at the National Weather Service.
It's moving. It's moving towards the west-southwest, and it looks like a big blob.
Their conversation, also recorded.
Oh my God, what is this? Now I'm getting 3 of them. These are huge returns. I've never seen anything like this. Not even when I'm doing storms. These aren't storms. They're just popping up all over the place.
Jack Bouchon, the meteorologist running the radar that night, was quickly instructed to not speak with members of the media.
When I tried to explain it to them, they didn't even want to listen.
Professionally distancing himself from the event, Bouchon requests a transfer and moves to Atlanta.
I knew I was looking at something highly unusual, not just an airplane, but either aircraft in formation or the biggest aircraft I've ever seen, on radar.
Now in retirement, Bouchon felt vindicated as the Pentagon declassified videos of unidentified aerial phenomenon in 2020. He says some of the Navy's radar descriptions match what he observed.
That the radar operators were talking about how they acted, which matched me. When I saw mine, there was no internet to go and research and see what other people had to say about it.
Bouchon is working on a scientific paper in which he hopes to publish some of his observations and analysis from that night. He, like so many others, hopes to one day understand what it was over West Michigan skies that night. For now, those strange lights witnessed by so many remain a mystery. Reporting from the Lakeshore, Will Haney, News Channel 3.